All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going microscopic to uncover the secret world of bacteria. Now, you probably think of them as just germs, right? But these ancient, incredibly complex organisms have a story that is, believe it or not, deeply tangled up with our own.
But before we get to them, let's start with a question about you. What is it that makes you, well, you? Is it your thoughts, your DNA? It seems like a simple question, but the answer is so much more complex and, frankly, a lot more crowded than you might imagine.
Because on a cellular level, your body is a bustling ecosystem. Get this, it contains up to 100 trillion bacterial cells. That's potentially more bacterial cells than your own human cells. So, if we're just counting cells, are you more human or are you more bacteria? I mean, just thinking about that for a second completely changes how you see yourself.
To really understand this, we have to move past that simple idea of bacteria as just germs. We need to pull back the curtain and see their true, complex nature.
So let's start with their incredible resilience. Who are these ancient pioneers of life, and where in the world did they come from? At their most basic, bacteria are prokaryotes. Now, all that means is that their genetic material, their DNA, isn't neatly tucked away in a nucleus like our cells. It's a much simpler blueprint, sure, but it's a blueprint that has allowed them to absolutely dominate this planet for billions of years. And I really do mean billions. Bacteria were the very first forms of life on Earth, showing up around 4 billion years ago. For 3 billion of those years, they had the planet pretty much all to themselves. And that last point on the slide, it's mind-blowing. The mitochondria, the little power plants in all of our cells, are thought to be the descendants of ancient bacteria. So, life as we know it is literally built on a bacterial foundation.
You know, despite their ancient history, they tend to stick to a few fundamental designs. The first one is the sphere, or cocci. Just think of them as simple, efficient little beads. The second shape is the rod, also known as a bacillus. And a little fun fact for you, the word bacterium actually comes from a Greek word that means staff or cane, and that's because these rod-shaped guys were the first ones we ever discovered.
And the third basic form is the spiral, or spirilla. And that's pretty much it. From just these three simple shapes, spheres, rods, and spirals, you get an almost infinite diversity that lets them adapt to nearly any environment you can think of.
And that diversity extends to their size in a way that is just, well, it's mind-boggling. The smallest ones, like Mycoplasma, are as tiny as a large virus. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have Margarita magnifica, which can grow up to 2 centimeters long. That is a single bacterial cell that you can see with your naked eye. It's like comparing a mouse to a blue whale. It's just wild.
And their resilience? Just as extreme. We find them thriving deep in Antarctic ice and in hydrothermal vents that are way hotter than boiling water. One species can withstand radiation doses that would kill a human in an instant. And, incredibly, another species of bacteria survived for 6 years just stuck to the outside of a satellite exposed to the raw vacuum of space. They are, without a doubt, the ultimate survivalists.
Okay, so now that we've met these incredible survivors, let's bring the story a little closer to home. Actually, let's bring it inside our own bodies, because in here, bacteria play a dual role as our closest allies and sometimes as our most dangerous enemies.
Yeah, our relationship with bacteria is really a story of contrast. The vast majority of bacteria living in and on our bodies are either totally harmless or incredibly helpful. That's our microbiome. But a very small number of pathogenic species have been responsible for some of the deadliest diseases in all of human history.
Let's start with the friends. Your microbiome is basically a forgotten organ you never knew you had. These bacteria make essential vitamins our bodies can't, like B12 and K. They help us break down food we can't digest, they train our immune systems, and they even protect us by crowding out the bad guys. We literally could not live without them.
But then, there are the foes, the pathogenic bacteria. And they cause a truly terrifying list of diseases. Tetanus, tuberculosis, anthrax. I mean, these names have struck fear into people for centuries, and they're a stark reminder of the deadly potential that's packed into these tiny organisms.
But it gets even crazier. Some of these pathogens have evolved tactics that are just unbelievably sophisticated. They don't just attack from the outside, they become these little covert operators, hijacking our own cells from within.
This quote from researcher Shahari Mukherjee just captures it perfectly. When she describes the bacterium Legionella as an excellent cell biologist, What she means is that it has evolved this expert-level understanding of how our own cells work, and it uses that knowledge against us.
Okay, check this out. Take the foodborne pathogen Listeria. Once it gets inside one of our cells, it literally hijacks the cell's own building materials, a protein called actin, to build itself a rocket-like tail. It uses this actin comet to zoom around inside the cell and then blast right through into its neighbors, spreading the infection, all while hiding from our immune system. It's genius.
Other bacteria are just masters of sabotage. Legionella, the one from the quote before, can bring a cell's protein factories to a grinding halt. Mukherjee's analogy is perfect. It's like causing a pileup on a freeway. By jamming up the system, the bacterium creates this controlled chaos that benefits itself.
And this might be the most astonishing trick of all. Some bacteria can fundamentally change what a cell is. The bacterium that causes leprosy can infect our nerve cells and actually reprogram them, turning them back into a primitive stem cell-like state. These rewired cells can then turn into other things, like muscle, carrying the bacteria with them to new parts of the body. It's like a form of cellular alchemy.
So given this incredibly complex relationship, friend, foe, cellular puppet master, where do we stand today? Let's take a look at our evolving relationship with bacteria in the age of medicine.
For the last century or so, our greatest weapon against the bad bacteria has been antibiotics. And these drugs are brilliant, really, because they target things that bacteria have, but that our cells don't. Penicillin, for example, stops bacteria from building their cell walls, a structure that's essential for them, but one we don't have at all. It's a perfect targeted strike.
But here's the catch. We've leaned on this weapon so heavily in both medicine and in farming that we've put bacterial evolution into overdrive. This constant pressure has allowed the toughest bacteria to survive our drugs, leading to the rise of antibiotic-resistant superbugs. And that is a massive threat to global health.
And that leaves us with this one profound question. Bacteria have been surviving and adapting on this planet for 4 billion years. They helped create the world we live in, and they're a fundamental part of our own bodies. In this escalating arms race, can we, a relatively young species, really outsmart an ancient master of survival? Or is the future not about winning, but about finding a new, smarter way to coexist?